Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, good morning everybody. What's going on? It's Tiger Claw Radio. Oh yeah, I hope you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving. It is that time of year where family comes in from out of town and it gets really loud and we all eat turkey and do other things people do on Thanksgiving. This is my first holiday season watching my weight, so that's been interesting. But one thing that there has been is plenty of time for video games, which is a rare treat for me. Lots of time for video games, which has been just marvelous. And on top of that, we've got some delicious acquisitions to go over. We're gonna check out some games, and we got some awesome tracks, and we got, let's see, we got my first ever Craigslist mission, which I mentioned briefly on Twitter over this past week. And a lot of other stuff to go over. It's going to be a great episode of Tiger Claw Radio. So let's start things off with a bang. This is Aloe Island Posse on TCR. That song's called World Tour. It's from Aloe Island Posse. It's the lead-off track off the EP Goodnight, Aloe Island. Oh my gosh. That came out in 2015. But I just came across that one for the first time this past month. That's been on my workout mix. When I go to the gym, that's usually what I hear. That's another one that since I missed the boat on it, it had a physical release, but it was extremely limited. Like, I think there was like maybe 20, somewhere between 20 and 50 cassettes produced, and that was it. I don't know if it had any vinyl or not, but all of the physical gear long gone. Now you can get that album for free, but not on Bandcamp. The free downloads expired, and they had to set it to $1. So what happens is you look it up on Bandcamp, and I'll have the link. You can check it out. And it says it's $1, but then in the description there's a link to like the MediaFire page where you can get the zip for free. It's that whole album. Oh, so good. Guys and gals, this is being recorded on Friday. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. I hope you guys saw your folks, if they're still around. I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving. And wherever you're at, even if you're far from home, especially if you're far from home, I hope you're having a good one now. Let's jump back into the time machine. We're going to go back to, I can't remember what day this was. It was either Monday or Tuesday. Early in the week. It's early in the week. We're going to the Vancast on Tiger Claw Radio. It's Monday morning. It's the Vancast, everybody. The first one with a brand new phone. I'm curious to see how it's going to affect the sound. Went from a Galaxy S5 to a Galaxy S9. Here's hoping the sound quality has gone up just a little bit. Seems like a good phone. I mean, when I take calls, it sounds better than it used to. The camera looks nicer than it used to. So last night I ran my first ever successful Craigslist mission. I went out and bought a tape deck for $25. It was a tape-to-tape Pioneer tape deck. This morning I got it out and hooked it up to my soundboard that I use on my computer. Got a little Behringer 4-track soundboard that I use to hook my condenser mic up to. So I got a condenser mic, and then I also looped the PC audio through it as an input. And now I have the tape deck looped in, which means I could record. I could hit record on the tape deck and record any output the computer is making, or I could put in a tape and hit play and then have it come out of the computer. Pretty sweet, easy access. Turning cassette tapes into MP3s, which is pretty cool because I'm into tapes right now. But it was cool to run a successful Craigslist mission. I never did Craigslist before. I went looking on Craigslist several times. But this was the first time I ever actually made a purchase. Reached out to the guy, showed up at his house, made it happen. There was a time in probably like 2010 or 2011 where I made a deal. There was a guy who had an Atari 7800 or 7600, whatever it's called, and he was letting it go for $10. Or no, he was letting it go for $20, and I talked him down to 10, but I couldn't get away to make it to his house, so I wasn't able to actually make the deal or seal the deal. And that was a long time ago. So that's my history with Craigslist. But this was great. Like, I'm trying to build a stereo system. And it seems like a nice cheap way to get a hold of some of the components. Like a good receiver is like $150. And I could run another Craigslist mission and get one for $50, which might work. It just might. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so this morning I woke up, walked into my office, and sat down at my computer. And I played some Space Quest, the original Space Quest. Working on a full Let's Play of Space Quest. But there's a couple of hurdles to doing that. Space Quest has a part where you have to collect all kinds of money to do certain tasks. Like you're stuck in a little town, and you've got to buy a droid and buy a spaceship. And the only way to do that is to use a slot machine and then save scum the slot machine. And that's where I'm at right now. So I'm trying to work it so that if I were to make a Let's Play, that part where you have to work a slot machine for 25 minutes doesn't slow the pace of the video. Ugh. So that's what I was doing this morning. I really dig that game. That's the first video game I've ever played. It was my introduction to everything, you know. And when I go back and play through it, it's still an impressive game. It looks good, and it looks good, and it plays solid. It's got references in it that I get, pop culture references that are fun. Didn't take itself too seriously. Space Quest is a good game, especially if you stack it up. I understand it's old, but if you stack it up against other games of the time, it stands up very, very well, right? Yes, you had to use a parser to input, your commands, but at least there was some kind of visual, right? This was the early 80s, so computer gaming was coming off of Zork and all that stuff. Infocom games were still coming out. Just pure raw text adventures. So this was a step up for its time, right? It didn't take the first step. I guess you would say King's Quest did that, but just a cool game. And still a cool game after all these years. Alright. It's a little bit harder on this phone for me to pause than an old phone. Hang on a second. Alright. So now it's time for the question I always ask in the van. And that's this. If I could just drop everything and go home, what would I do? Here's me walking into my office on early in the morning. What am I playing? And right now, excuse me. Right now it would be Family Tracker, because with the new tape deck and whatnot, I'm thinking a lot about music. I'm ready to go. I want to push this new album further, and that's my goal today, is to push it at least a little bit further. Refine some of the tracks that I have, because I've got maybe about 5 tracks or so. They need some polish. They need some additional work done. But that's right where I would be happy this morning. Make a second cup of tea, sit down at my desk, throw my earphones on, work on the old chiptunes. Oh, here's something that happened. When I was at Best Buy with my wife, we were getting our phones this past week. It took a long time. It took like 4 hours. And we were sitting there waiting for my wife's stuff to transfer over, and she was like, "Why don't you just go take a walk? Just look around a little bit. Get your legs moving. You'll feel better." I was like, "All right, sounds good." So I'm walking around Best Buy, and I come to the earphones. Now, the earphones that I use, I think are like $40 or something, $30 or $40. I don't know. They're decent earphones, but we're not Can't break the bank because earphones break. You know, I have a bad history with earphones. They break. So that's what I use. So when I was at Best Buy walking around, I came to one of those kiosks where they have the earphones for you to try. And I tried a pair of $312 earphones. And I put these things on, and the second I put the cups on my head, everything went silent. And I turned on the music, and I have to say, for 1 minute, I was thinking about it. $312 for earphones. I for just this quick minute, I was on board. But in the end, you know, how well is Fama Tracker gonna sound on those crisp, clear earphones? Need a little bit of distortion, you know. Fama Tracker, or maybe if you're listening to punk music that was recorded on a cassette player in 1982, doesn't need to be that crisp. It's lo-fi, right? But that was a fun experience, and that happened. And with that, I'm gonna shoot you guys back to the studio. It's Thanksgiving week. I hope you guys are having a great day. We're back in the studio. I did end up running that Craigslist mission, and I did acquire that tape deck. $25. It's sitting right here next to me. You hear that? That's the clackety clack of cassette tapes sliding across the top of a tape deck. And I don't have a stereo receiver or anything like that. So what I did was I looped it right into the soundboard, which is nice because then I can do this. That's the very bad distortion of my terrible mixtape dub. Playing a J. Arthur Keen song right into the board. I love it. So I got this thing set up, and I did the mixtape exchange. Let's see. Hang on a second. Let me get what was sent to me here. So I made 2 copies of my own mixtape so that I could keep one and compare the two. And I sent the Cassette Culture Synthwave Synth Pop Mix with a picture of Anne Margaret on the cover, like you'll see on the video. I shot footage of a bunch of this so you'll see it. And what was sent to me was a tape that blew mine out of the water. The person over at Cassette Culture bought a Type 2 tape. Okay, so a little bit more expensive, a little bit better sound quality. It's a Type 2 tape, whereas mine was a Type 1. Their dub was much cleaner and nicer than mine. I did my dub on like a cheesy old boombox where I didn't really have any control over any of that, like the sound levels and stuff. So you could hear, that was my dub that we sampled a second ago. You could hear how poorly it sounded. So she sent me this tape with a pretty nice looking J card in it. And a hand drawing of Ryoko from Tenchi Muyo. Track-wise, it's supposed to be another synthwave, synth pop mix, but it feels a little bit more like club music to me. A little bit more electron, techno, dance rather than synth pop. Very, very little pop on that mix, but all in all, I traded up in a big way, which makes me feel bad. I hope she doesn't feel disappointed in my crappy mixtape. But that was it. That was good fun. I did the mixtape exchange. I'm sitting on, how many we got here? 3 more of these blanks, these Maxell 90-minute blank tapes for the future. So I don't know if anybody out there has any interest in cassettes. We could do some mixtape exchanging if you want. Or if you're a patron, you could download the MP3s of the mixtape I sent because they're going to be available by the end of the week. By the time you guys are hearing this, you can go download side A and side B, respectively, of my mixtape, which should be fun. All right, so let's talk about some video games. Thanksgiving, as you know, is one of the 3 big sale times of the end of the year if you're a Steam user. There's also sales, all over the place. I'm sure PSN and Xbox 360, or Xbox 360, PSN and whatever the Xbox uses, I'm sure they got sales there as well. I'm just much less well-versed in what they have going on because, that's not really where I play my games. Let's talk about Steam. For Thanksgiving, they upped their game quite a bit. The sales were actually much, much nicer than they were on Halloween, which is usually how it goes. And I got a few things. Just to run the list, I got Dishonored, the base game, for $250. Dungeon Siege 3. Independence War, which is like a space sim kind of game. I got Lords of Magic for like $1.50. Maniac Mansion for $2. Maniac Mansion on the PC. I'm kind of psyched about that. I bought Metal Fatigue, which I got on a recommendation. I bought Resident Evil 5 and 6, which I got in a pack. There was a Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 pack for $10, and I had 4 already. Then I got a package of games called Umihara Kawase, which is a side-scrolling game. I got a Senran Kagura, which is a hack-and-slash game I haven't tried. I got Shogo Mobile Armored Defense, which is a first-person shooter. Strafe, which is a first-person shooter. Sudeki, which I believe is an RPG adventure game. But to be honest, that's been on my wish list so long, I kind of forgot. I got a game called This Book is a Dungeon, which was 50 cents and is terrible. And one of my friends gifted me a copy of Turok, the Dinosaur Hunter. You guys remember that game? Turok was interesting in that when my older brother got his computer in the late 90s, he got a couple of games like packaged in with it. It was a Gateway computer. And Gateway had a deal where they gave you like a CD bundle, and one of the CDs was the original Unreal, which was what got played more often than not, was the original Unreal. But it also came with Turok. And I installed Turok and sat down with it one time. I was much younger. This was like probably 1998 or 1999. And I got lost almost immediately, and I never played it again. And that's my experience with Turok. So when it was gifted to me just yesterday, I reinstalled it, and I played it for about an hour. Got much further this time. But ultimately, I got lost again. This is a first-person shooter, but it relies on you to find secrets in order to pass levels. So it only took me about an hour before I got hopelessly lost, and I couldn't get any further. Thankfully, it does feature workshop support on Steam with a level editor. Not that I would be interested in building levels for Turok, but I would consider playing some custom levels. I've gotten lost, so I can't go any further in the pack-in story. But if I still want to play the game, there's other stuff for me to play, which is awesome. That is the Steam Workshop at its finest, adding additional gameplay. The game most played for me over the last couple days, ironically, after buying all those games, was Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 on Steam. The PC port of Resident Evil 4 is not great. Okay? I think it has gotten better since I first originally bought it, because I remember you not being able to use the mouse. Mouse seems to work just fine now. The controls are really wonky, which here's the thing about Resident Evil 4. It's kind of heralded as the savior of the Resident Evil series, because prior to Resident Evil 4, that was a series that had like tank controls, and a lot of people didn't like them. So Resident Evil 4 was the game. It got so much better. But I got news for you. That's a hard game to control. Like, there was an awful lot of cameras pointing at walls and just difficulty getting around. But I got my feet wet, and how much have I put into that game over the past couple of days? 3 hours, which is a lot for me. I got to the battle where you shoot, you throw harpoons at like the monster in the lake. I just beat that thing, and then you go across, and then there's like a puzzle with crates or something. That's as far as I got. I discovered that Resident Evil 4 on the PC has a mod crop, which is awesome. I like buying games that have awesome modifications. And I went looking for something that would fix the controls. Didn't find anything. But I did find some other interesting mods. I'm gonna look them up right here so I can go over it with you. What? All right. Resident Evil 4 mods. This is a game that has Nexus support. Nexus mods being the main site for the Elder Scrolls mod community. Let's see. Resident Evil 4 Game Banana mods collection. All mods from Game Banana packaged into one. We got the modded save game. A collection of save games for the original Resident Evil 4 that have been modified to have characters in other scenarios that are not supposed to appear. The Ultimate Edge edition that makes Leon all black and gothy. What else do we have? Full Metal Jacket, Resident Evil 4 military overhaul. The dead only know one thing. It's better to be alive. Oh boy. The stars from Resident Evil 1 in Resident Evil 4. This is more sensible than I seem to remember it being. Let's see. I want to see the most popular ones because I remember them being crazy. Alright, most popular all time. We've got the RE4 Gamma Fix, fixing the gamma and color issues. We've got all the guns and weapons. Let's see. And then there's, of course, there's adult-only mods. Of course. Because why wouldn't there be? Yep, this is a thing. Oh wow, as it turns out, the one that makes Leon all gothy, that is one of the most popular mods. It's not the most popular. It is the 11th most popular. Which is, whew, that is crazy. Alright. So, needless to say, I want to go through the game. I want to go through it normally before I start messing with any of that stuff. Now, I'm not like that with every game. The Elder Scrolls games in particular, I've got no problem applying mods to those games whenever I feel like it. But Resident Evil 4 was a game I played halfway through about 10 years ago, and I never actually beat this one. I got halfway through, and I just couldn't get any further. And I don't think it was because it was too hard. I think it was because I played it when I had a couple days off from work. Then I set it aside to go back to work, and after a certain amount of time passed, I felt like I just couldn't go back to it. I couldn't remember where I was or what I was doing, and I just couldn't sit down with it again. Now I'm on a roll. Now I want to push hard to see if I can actually get this to happen. Okay, so this next track we're going to hear is from Sinless, and it's from a 3-song EP. And man, it is killer. Man, it's killer. Very chilled out. So chill out with me here on Tiger Claw Radio. Was that too cheesy? That feels a little too cheesy. Oh well.
She's the fairest of them all. I always have to change to be loved. Is this real life or projected fantasy? Is this real love? If this is real love, then I don't have to fake it. If this is real love, then I don't have to make it. She's the colors when I love. I try to tell myself I'm enough, but there's
right, this is the part of the show where I like to take a few minutes to thank those who are giving of their resources to make sure that Tiger Claw Radio comes back every week. These are the guys who have registered on Patreon and are helping me out just a little every month. So, in exchange, I can offer them a couple of things. They get some supporter-exclusive content. For example, the chiptune review, which just came out this past week. All of the songs that are played here on TCR are compiled into a bit of a mixtape, and they're released as a podcast. And then on top of that, there's some other supporter-exclusive content. The mixtape I just did on the Cassette Culture Mixtape Exchange. Those are going to be uploaded for the supporters as podcasts. They also get early access to TCR. As soon as it gets done, it goes up for them. And I read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and the Cartridge Brothers. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate what you're doing for TCR, and thanks for supporting. All right. So, here's a little something. This past week, Tiger Claw TV turned 10 years old. That's right. TCTV predates TCR. I started my YouTube channel in 2008 in November. Now let's see if I can remember back in those days. It was my second attempt at a YouTube channel. My first attempt was I was doing some face camera angry video game nerd ripoff stuff, which is what a lot of people were doing in 2008 on YouTube. And my wife was like, I don't know about this. So we pulled that, and that's not around anymore. And unfortunately, I don't have the videos I used to make either. I wish I did, but they're long gone. So my YouTube channel opened up, and what was the first video? The first video was a music video, I think. And I remember searching for bands on MySpace and emailing bands asking for permission to use songs. That was a big thing. I wanted to make sure I had the band's permission, because there wasn't anything like Content ID at the time. There was just, dudes posting their music, and I figured if I just straight up used some band, then at some point somebody would be like, hey man, it's not cool. And thus I got in contact with a group called Identity Parade, and that's still a great song. I mean, I know it's a cheesy video, but that first video, the song I used, that's a good song. TCR didn't come around until a little bit later. I wanted a way to continue making content when I started college. See, at that time I was working in plumbing, and yeah, man, it was rough. Didn't have a lot of time for video games. I don't even know how I managed to maintain a YouTube channel. I guess I didn't have any kids yet. I got 2 kids now. Man, a lot's changed in the last 10 years. Jeez Louise. So big thanks to Hemrock for pointing that out. He sent a comment on one of my videos over the past week that was just like, hey man, happy 10 years. And I was like, oh, you're right. My gosh. All right, boys. You know what time it is. We're 35 minutes in. At this point, it seems early to do the fail bag, but you know what? This is about the time I'm supposed to do the fail bag. Let's see. And there's some good stuff this past week. Let's start with a comment that came in on an episode from a few weeks ago, episode 257. Episode 257 was called TikTok Special, which, by the way, like 2 or 3 days after I put that out, that's when I heard about the app TikTok, which everyone has been talking about, how the kids are using that. TikTok for me was a liquor store. There was a liquor store called the TikTok. When I moved into, I don't want to say the name of the city, but one of the burbs down here in Maryland, there's a place that borders southern Maryland into D.C. that's very, it's got a lot of crime, and I lived there without a car for a while. I would take the bus from this basement that I lived in up to the nice part of town where I worked at an IHOP. And it was 2 hours in the morning to ride the bus up. work my day, and then it was 2 hours to ride the bus back. 4 hours every day on the bus for a job as a waiter, where I would make a pile of $1 bills. And at that time, I wasn't a drinker, but I had a roommate who was. And the TikTok was the place to go for liquor. And my experience with the TikTok was, one day he was like, there was, let's see, how can I explain this to somebody who didn't know this guy? There was a third dude that we all used to hang out with, and suddenly him and my roommate weren't pals anymore. And one day he was like, this guy owes me some money. We're going to meet in the parking lot of the TikTok, and he's going to pay me off. It's not a lot of money. It's probably like $20, $30. I can't remember how much it was. Can you come with us so that I'm not by myself? I was like, all right. And it turned out my roommate had like 4 or 5 dudes to meet with this guy in the parking lot of the TikTok because he was expecting trouble. He thought it was going to be like a fight or something. I had no idea. I was like, okay, we'll go get your $20 and it'll be fine. And we went, and thank goodness the guy just showed up and paid him off, and it was like no big deal. But yeah, my roommate was expecting a fight, and he had me tag along without explaining this first. And that's what TikTok is to me. It's a liquor store with a great big giant clock on it. Which is why it's not spelled the same way as the app that all the kids are using. Well, that episode, for the music, I featured an album called Master Quest 1 Press Start, and it's from a guy named Jitterwits, who I found over on Bandcamp. And that was a brand new album. Let's see, that came out October 31st was when that podcast came out. And the album, Master Quest, came out, let's see, September 1st. So it had only been out a month. And a comment came in just yesterday from Mr. Jitterwits, which is pretty sweet. And he writes, "No way. Thank you for playing and discussing my tunes. It means a lot. Love the sign off at the end, too. It was genuinely motivating. I'm stoked to keep checking out the show. Cheers." And that was awesome. In 10 years of doing this, that's the first time an artist who I played found the show and reached out to me. It's the first time. So I replied to him. I usually like to reply here on the air, but I said, "That's awesome you found the show. I dug your album. What's next? Gonna make another one?" And he replies with, "Thanks so much again. I'm definitely gonna make another one. I'd love to have number 2 out by the end of the year, but I've been slacking." So that's it, boys and girls. This is a call to action. We're gonna support our own, because that's what Jitterwits is. He's one of us now. I'm gonna put a link to this Master Quest album. It's a good album. It's 10 solid tracks. I haven't heard a pure chiptune album that I really dug in a long time, because they used to be a dime a dozen over on the 8-Bit Collective back in 2010, but now it seems like chiptune guys more like SoundCloud and stuff like that. Stuff where SoundCloud is popular, and the Battle of the Bits is popular. It seems like more often than not amongst chiptune artists, what I hear is the songs are there, you can listen to them, but we don't want you to have them. There's no download option. That's more often than not what I hear, and it really bothers me. All right, and you better believe when Master Quest 2 comes out, we'll be featuring that on Tiger Claw Radio. Speaking of which, I had just discovered, just now from clicking around, that there is a new release over on Battle of the Bits while we're on the subject. Now, the way Battle of the Bits does their releases, they put out something on Bandcamp, and it's free as long as it's the most recent release. So this is only going to be free until the next one comes out. And it is, let's see, Summer Chip 8. So this is a big one. And we're looking at 40 tracks. Now I'm gonna play some from this next week. I want a week to be able to go over it myself and see what's here. But these don't tend to stay free for very long, especially the big ones. in the past, since I've been going to this site, the big ones come out, and this is the most recent one for maybe like a week or two or something, and then something else comes out, and then it gets a $5 price tag. So be on the lookout for this one, boys and girls. All right, so let's head back to last week in TCR and see what we got. By the way, something I noticed that YouTube has been doing is that it has, let's see, it says 4 comments, and it will only show me 3. Now it does this. Let's see. No, yeah, okay. It will show me 3, all 4. Okay, never mind. Never mind. We're going to start with Desm101 from 4 days ago. He writes, we bought Wild Arms. He's talking about the PS1 Mini. He writes, we bought Wild Arms right when it came out, and me and my little brother played the heck out of it. Pretty hard RPG for us at the time, but a good game for sure. The PS1 Classic may apparently be using an open source emulator, and it lacks the settings for adjusting the visuals, plus some sloppy user interface. Really strange, since Sony has their first-party emulators. I think the games list has a few oddities like Rainbow Six, GTA, and Battle Arena Toshinden, but otherwise it's not too bad. It's hard to make everyone happy with such a massive legendary library. Then he puts a time signature for 1 hour and 12 minutes and 55 seconds, and he writes, yeah, not a bad idea. I haven't put my music into a collection like an album for years now, but I freaking love getting new music from Bandcamp, so I'll definitely think about putting some up there to contribute to the scene. Downloaded your Green Leo King of Time album and really enjoying it so far. Desm, thanks, man. I appreciate you checking out my album as well. My old chiptunes, they don't get listened to much. I have, especially lately since I've been into Bandcamp, I've been going back and looking at the statistics, and you know, it's a fart in the wind. That's what it is. A little album from 8-9 years ago, however long it's been, and doesn't get much love. So I certainly appreciate that. Let's talk about the PS1 Mini. Some of those games I think are there because they were PS1 culture games. I don't know how else to explain this. Not there because they're good games, but there because they were big at the time. Battle Arena Toshinden. I mean, that's a series that, you know, has by and large been forgotten about. We don't see HD remixes of Battle Arena Toshinden games. There's no Battle Arena Toshinden on Steam, but it was a series that everybody knew back in those days, and I think that's why that game is on there. Is it the best choice for a PS1 Mini? No, but at least I can understand that mindset. I maintain that the Rainbow Six is a very weird choice. I was playing games with Alex Swingle this past week, and he called me out on that. He's like, Rainbow Six was a good game, either or. But I think it's a weird choice. In a library where there's tons and tons and tons of just unforgettable games. Really, Rainbow Six, you think? I don't know. I thought it was weird. GTA I kind of get. I mean, the original GTA on PC is, I think it's free on Rockstar. At least it was for a while. But I had that on the PlayStation back in the day, and that was a big deal for me. Especially now, because you can't get it on Steam anymore. Like, it used to be available on Steam as long as you bought like the trilogy or the collection, the GTA collection. So there's a listing for it, but it was never actually individually for sale. But even that has been removed now. So, yeah. Let's say you're a younger gamer playing Grand Theft Auto for the first time, and you wanted to try the original games, GTA, GTA 2, and heaven forbid the 1969 add-on for GTA. I don't know how you would do it, to be honest with you. I really don't. So in that sense, maybe it does make sense. As it is, the edition for that game, I don't know how to go about getting it. The only way I can think to do it is to go out and rebuy the original GTA for the PlayStation, and then find a disc of the add-on, because they did sell the add-on individually, which was a weird thing. And I'm going to look right now to see how much it cost. PS1 GTA, PS1, GTA London. Bear with me. At the time, they boasted this as the very first expansion pack available for a console. You know what? This is cheaper than I thought it was going to be. The first result is to buy it now for $12 for just the expansion pack. Then it looks like there was a double feature, like a director's cut, that had it in there for $20. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that, to be honest with you. I actually would like to play this again. Yeah, I would. I would really like to play that again. I had this once upon a time. I had I bought that box set that had GTA, the GTA 2, and the London expansion, and then the tab was white instead of black. I did have that, but when I turned 17, my mom threw out all my possessions. When I moved out of my house, I was able to take with me what I could carry, under the idea that I would go back for the rest. And the very next day, my mom came and threw out everything I wasn't able to take with me. So, a lot of my old PlayStation games from that time, are gone. They're just gone. So that's how that game met its end. All right, here. Thanks, Desm. And by the way, looking forward to hearing about your album when you put one together. Let me know about it so we can play it. Because I dug your SoundCloud tracks. I feel like all you need to do is just put some zip files in a folder and call it an album. But let me know. So Mecha Menace replied, "It's depressing when the backspace button is somehow focused on the back button on the browser when all you want to do is delete your comment. Paragraph's gone." All right, let's take a break so I can address this. All right, Mecha Menace. Somewhere along the line, I stopped typing directly in browsers because of that sort of thing happening. Type in Notepad, dude, or type in LibreOffice or something, and then copy and paste in the internet. You never want to type directly into a browser because that's not the only thing that can happen. Sometimes browsers just up and crash, but I don't think I've ever had Notepad do that. Let's get back to the comment. He writes, "Unless the PS1 Mini is running on a cell processor or some x86 or x64 variant, Sony probably decided to license a well-established emulator that is compatible with the CPU they're using to get this thing out the door as soon as possible." Hype! The UI looks simple enough and very reminiscent of the 90s party/confetti style of the startup menu, the original PS1. I'm not sure why it's sloppy. I think it would have been better if they included the boot up sound and the PS1 logo before throwing you to the menu, rather than splitting the white screen on the boot and then showing the black logo when you select a game. I think it may be a limitation of the ROMs though. The PS1 logo and the rest of the boot startup might be part of the game ROM rather than the BIOS. Alright, quick break from the email just to address this bit. Mecha Menace, I remember as a kid, the original PS1, let's say you would put a CD, like a music CD in the PS1. It would play the first half of the boot sequence, then it would go into the CD browser, and then if you put a game in, it would play the second half of the boot sequence. So from this, I can imagine that the first portion and the second portion of the boot sequence were always separated. And it's just when you put a game directly into the machine, it would play them together. But it was two separate actions that would happen at two separate times. So yeah, it would have been nice to see them together because it's something like that. It's kind of like an iconic sound that goes along with that time, especially if they're going to put in games like Battle Arena Toshinden just because they happen to be popular back then. I feel like they should preserve a little bit of the sound. But anyway, let's get back to the email. He writes, "Guesstimation here, but I believe Sony hastily put this hardware together, licensing the games on the box last, thus only first announcing those games which they locked in at first. The more of the mini consoles there are, you bet the publishers are raising the cost of licensing for classic games on mini boxes and downloads on contemporary console stores." Ouch, man, that's a harsh reality. Rainbow Six and Toshinden are odd choices. I wonder if they were chosen to show appreciation for long-standing relationships with publishers rather than how fun the games are. All included story-driven games start with the first in the game in the series, even though later games are definitely improved in the formula. The only other odd choice for me is Twisted Metal. Why not Twisted Metal 2? Here's hoping Tekken 3 is on the box. I'll never buy. Wait, all right. I think I read this wrong. Here hoping Tekken 3 on a box I'll never buy is unaltered and still includes Gone. Tekken 3. So silly. Mecha Menace throwing some harsh reality into the idea of these mini boxes. A lot more of the behind the scenes stuff that like relationships between publishers and how that can influence what we actually sit down and play. It's a harsh reality, man. I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that how much we actually enjoy these games isn't always the factor. But you know what? You're right. It is, especially now, having been in the workforce and seeing how things tend to go. I completely believe it. All right, and we got one from Balzac, who has a YouTube link, and he writes, "Here's the Ouya review you made 5 years ago, so I guess you don't have to make another review unless you want to elaborate on the demise of the console." Yeah, you're right. It's not so much about elaborating on the demise of the console, although that is a part of it, so much as what happens if you were to find yourself the owner of an Ouya today. Which, by the way, it's not $100 anymore. Let's see what it costs to get an old Ouya off of eBay. Alright, Ouya. Nope. I hit backspace. Ouya. What's an Ouya cost? New in box with 2 controllers, which I didn't have a second controller. There it is for $80. Ouya console silver 8GB with controller. Current bid is $15 with 19 shipping. It's what, 35? There's another one, $80. $60. $60. 60 or 70, depending. I don't know. I'd have to crunch some numbers and come up with an average. They're all over the place. But yeah, I don't know. I agree. Maybe I don't need to make another video about one. I just kind of want to play my Ouya again. Is that so bad? I want to see if the shop is still active, because something tells me it isn't. All right, we got one last one from Mecha Menace, who writes, "What kind of MIDI keyboard are you looking for? I see M Audio boards with MIDI and USB several times a year for around 10 to 30. I usually see short boards, but let's say 2 out of 5 are long boards. I'm not familiar at all with these, but a Google search turns up some boards that look similar to the short ones I've seen. Key Studio 49, Ozone, Axiom, Oxygen 8. I'm not sure what these things cost, but considering I'm in California and you're somewhere on the East Coast, I can UltraPad one of these inside a board game USPS box and ship it to you for around $20. It'll take 2 to 3 days to arrive since it's priority mail, and I'm not promising anything, so look for good deals on your own as well, but I'd like to help you further your hobby. I use Skype, but I can also leave comments here that you can respond to, but we can work out the deets and whether or not you actually want the boards I spot." Well, let's think about this. I can't remember exactly what was said last week, but just to recap, I'm in the market for an MIDI controller. Hang on. Is that better? Pop, pop, fizz, fizz. I am in the market for an MIDI controller. I'm looking for a short board specifically, because I'm used to using my actual keyboard, the QWERTY keyboard. FamiTracker assigns Z to M as white keys, and then A to L as black keys. Same thing with Q to P, and then the numbers and so on and so forth, like 2 keyboards stacked on top of each other. So I'm used to working on a short board environment. I think it would work well with my setup. And the one I had looked at, the most popular, is the Akai board, which is about the Akai MPK Mini, which is about $100. And let's see, you're looking at 2 octaves, and it has 8 drum pads. And that's it. It's a short little guy. USB interface. And that would be perfect. That thing's about $100, but that's on the high end. Now I do know that there are lesser expensive ones. Even if I just look on, say, Amazon, I can go down. I'm pretty sure as low as about $30. MIDI controller. Let's see. Hang on a second. We're gonna see what we can see. We're looking at the MIDI Plus MIDI controller with 32 keys. This is $36.30. Let's see. There's no drum pads, but we do got a pitch knob. We got octave controllers. Right? You got 2 octaves, then hit the button, and then it's an octave higher, which I think would help. And man, that is a little guy. So that's one option. Let's see what else. USB controller. The vast majority of them are around $100, give or take. Here's another one for $55, but this one's exclusively drum pads. Just the squares. I would want something that looks like a keyboard. What are the brands you sent? Let's go back to the comment here. I feel like, all right, I feel like in this $30-$40 range, whatever they may be, I feel like I could just snag one myself, and it's no big deal. I get enough support from the supporters. I should be able to pick up something like that on my own dime at this point. If you see like a Mega Steel, like you said, you saw something for like $10 or something like that. If you come across something like that, by all means, snap it up. Let me know, and we'll work out the details for sure. Give me a second. I want to go over this one more time just to make sure I understand this properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to Google what you have here. So you mentioned specifically Key Studio 49, Ozone, Axiom, and Oxygen 8. I want to see exactly what these are. Yeah, I'm looking at these, and they seem like good units. Especially, what is this? The Axiom 25. The one you listed was the Keystone 49. I think that was the first one. 49 keys is too much. That's a big machine for the space I have anyway. I mean, it's not big, but for the space I actually have to work with, it is. I'll go ahead and take care of it. I appreciate the support for sure. But unless you're seeing like a $100 machine for $10 or something of that nature, I think I would just take care of it myself. Much appreciated, though. I do very much appreciate it. So where does that put us? Are we done? Let's go back to the YouTube channel. See what came in. There was one comment that I got this past week. I don't have it in front of me, but it was on my I made a video for WordStar 4 a long time ago. It's now the most watched video I have up. Just a little, hey man, this is what Game of Thrones was written on. Let's just take a look. So I poked around a little bit, and that video ended up doing all right. Every now and then I get comments from people just looking at old school computing software, and one that came in. A lot of the times it's, hey, where can I get this program? Or people correcting me on stuff that I said because I didn't know much about it. But this one I loved. Okay, here we go. This was 2 days ago. Please solve the question. The key used to create a blank line in WordStar is A, the spacebar, B, Control key, C, Alt key, D, Return key. Because I didn't get ants of this question. And that really happened. That was a real comment. Please solve the question. And there it is. That's TCR for this week, guys. Look, whatever has gotten you here, 1 hour and 1 minute and 20 seconds into the show, thanks for spending some time. I appreciate it. This is our hour a week to just chill out and talk about some video games and what we're buying and what we're playing. I hope you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving. I really do. And as Christmas comes closer, I hope you have a Merry Christmas. because now we can put the lights up and all have a good time. I want you guys to be the people who enjoy the season because of the sake of enjoying things. Don't be the stick in the mud. And as you move forward to whatever it is you're going to do this week, whatever it is you have to do, I'm wishing you the best. It doesn't always work out, but whatever we get this week, we're going to make the most of it. Have a good one, and I'll see you next Monday.